Well, hello. This is the long-awaited video that my friends have been asking for me to teach them how to sew, and quite a few of you as well. So let's start off, dive right in, and we are making this particular culotte. This is one of my favorites. It's the Vogue V1772, and if you follow the link on my Amazon, you can get it from there. I am using XL size as well as XXL, and after doing my measurements, I'll be showing you in another video. Get yourself a pair of paper scissors and cut out the pattern pieces. Make sure everything that you need is in front of you. And we'll start off with the front panels. Of course, I said I wanted to use the XL for my waist and XXL for my hips. So we fold that in line and make sure that is taped down as well. And this is where we're going to cut the pattern. As the pattern comes as a full pair of trousers and a pair of culottes, there is a line where you fold, and which is what I'm doing right now. And once that is all folded, make sure your grain is straight. That line with the arrow at the top is what I mean by straight grain. Again, I will be doing a few beginner videos that explain all of these markings on your patterns, that show you where all the grains are, that show you where, literally just makes you understand what is what within the pattern. Always make sure everything is parallel and straight. I am just pinning the straight grain first and then slightly pulling, not necessarily like tacky type pulling, don't tear the pattern type of pulling, to make sure that everything is stuck where it should be. Tissue paper can be quite fragile, as in the pattern paper can be quite fragile. So you have to be careful in how you pull it. So here I'm literally just cutting out the rest of the fabric because it was pulling on the side and that would have stretched the fabric. So make sure that you've got the piece that you need to cut and you lay it flat and cut away any pieces that are hanging over your table. Even if you're cutting on the floor, just make sure everything is laying flat. And once you're done pinning everything, take your fabric scissors, which are different to your paper scissors, and cut right through. And now you have your pattern piece. Now that you've cut all your pattern pieces, the most important things to do is to make sure the notches are all aligned. Once your notches are aligned, make sure you snip the fabric exactly where the notch is. Again, I will explain all of these markings to you in a beginner friendly video that explains pretty much everything that you'll need. These are what you're going to use to match the fabrics together when you're sewing them so that all your pattern pieces align. Now on to the next piece, which is the important part, the pleats. The pleats go in one particular direction. So you pick out the size, and remember I said my waist area is XL. So I am going to do a stitch that will literally make sure that the markings go through to the fabric. So this is me marking the fabric and copying where the pleats are going to be. And we do the same for all the little notches. And you kind of do it in this way where you leave the thread a little bit loose and leave a little bit in the middle so that when you cut when you take off the pattern, it can be easily removed. So you cut it at the end and you also cut it in the middle as well. I mean, firstly, mark all the notches that you're going to need. Once all of them are marked up, then we can move on to the next stage. Now that you've got all your markings in order, you have those little loops. Make sure you snip the edge, not too much, just enough so you can align the snips together. Again, these are all markings that you're going to need later on. And the next thing that we do is to snip the loop area so that when you remove the pattern off the paper, it just slides off and you don't damage the pattern. So now the markings have been transferred onto the fabric. We then remove all the pins. Make sure you put them back in a safe space. I use a little jar. I've got two of them, one at my cutting table and one at my sewing machine, which helps kind of keep things in order. As you know, pins kind of go everywhere, and especially where you don't need them. I will remove the pattern, and you can see that the markings are now on there. And we do the same for the bottom layer of the fabric as well. Next, to fold where the markings are, and you remember to always make sure your pleats are facing your front seam. There will be a lot of pinning, there will be a lot of ironing, but again, this is me showing you step by step how to actually make your culottes without having to refer back to the instructions on the manual, because who follows them anyway? One thing to note when you're ironing is try not to iron directly on the fabric. So I use scrap fabrics of calico that you use to iron. That way the iron doesn't burn the fabric and you don't get those shiny marks after ironing, because you're going to be ironing a lot, so you need to protect your fabric as well. And now that those pleats are in, we're going to baste them down. So what we call a basting stitch is not a permanent stitch, so it doesn't matter what thread you use. I prefer to use white, especially if it's on this navy blue fabric, so it doesn't really show up too much when you're sewing the actual fabric. We're going to be using a navy blue that matches the fabric. So this basting stitch is so that the pleats are held in place, and we do that for both of the front pieces. And there you have it. You now have done your pleats, and we're ready to move on to the next part. So now you have one side, which is on this part is the right side. I know on your camera it shows up as the left, but this is the right side. So you go ahead and do the left side, and we will meet again on the next video.